spear level threat on the field!
Which plate we aiming for?
Bottom.
That bottom one.
Second bottom, most bottom.
Most bottom.
He loves doing that, actually.
My mech! My mech! My mech went for a ride.
One last ride.
Dick slam.
If your mech died, just use the auto cannon.
I'm out of ammo. Oh, well, I'm dead.
Armor broke.
It's open. Move.
You always going into ground setup.
Throwing a resupply.
Yo, we are absolutely pumping him right now, dude.
Oh, no! Fucking bastard.
Freedom!
You saw that guy?
Go on! We need to kill him! It's
Doing the
perfect! Come on!
shakes.
Yo, he's...
Is that? Oh my god! GG! GG! GG!
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're locking in the most consistent way to take down Hivelords while also countering bile dragons and easily taking down any cave mission on the hardest difficulty. So lighting this off, we're diving into the best way to kill the Hivelord, and my favorite part about the way that we do this is that it doesn't matter if you're in a solo, duo, 4-man, you'll have the consistency to take it down every single time. There's been a lot of tech for this go up that I've seen popping up, but it all involves committing your entire loadout to taking down the Hivelord, and we're only committing 2 stratagem slots. The mech, which is something you're going to be taking in for every single cave mission already, and the spear. This is the definition of a spear level threat, and because it has AP 7, it doesn't get damage reduced down to 65%, like a lot of the other things you would blast into this, and it ends up overmatching the armor, only taking 13 rockets to break a plate off. So when 4 people connect, you can tear this thing's bagussi wide open almost instantly, exposing the true weak point to everything else you bring in to blast it with. In the clip I showed, we only had 3 mechs active, so with 4 it would have been an even faster kill, but with all the craziness happening, we consistently had 1 die, so I thought that it was better to show this rather than a perfect run. And as I tested this in a solo, duo, and 4-man, there was nothing more consistent and easier to use than the spear for breaking off these plates. It basically guaranteed a free hit exactly where I wanted it, and all I needed to do was take my time and make sure that I was locking onto the correct plate, so that's going to be my biggest tip for you. You also don't really want to team load the spear because it gets interrupted too easily, so you can just slam fire it, and if all 4 people are doing this, you'll rip it off ridiculously fast. This doesn't just work in a 4-man though. Duo, we easily stripped the armor off and it just took a little extra time to reload the shots off, and then we slam fired our mechs into the open weak spot, but it took all of our ammo and they weren't off cooldown because we broke the armor too fast, so we realized we needed something that we could use either when this happened or our mechs died, and that's where the autocannon came in. Flipping this over to flak mode guarantees that half of the flak goes into the boss, and this does a ridiculous amount of damage. You can see tons of pieces flying off this thing as we blast into it, so you can see it suffering. And on average, when we connected on a good team load after the plates broke off, we consistently cooked him up without any mechs in under 2 minutes duo. The amount of damage you put out with this thing against the Hivelord is unmatched and completely obliterates his health bar. Having the autocannon as a backup plan when the mech dies or you run out of ammo, and even when you're not able to team load, lets you pump out an absurd amount of damage, and it has no problems killing anything else the bugs can throw at you either. And even when I was solo, the amount of enemies made it hard to stay locked in, but even then the active engagement time I had on the Hivelord was still under 8 minutes. Being able to have this super flexible weapon as a backup made the game feel way better to play, and with the amount of shrieker nests around, you can easily just blast them across the map, and the flak mode just clears them out of the sky super easily. And I hate getting shrieked on, so having this as my backup was basically perfect. And the loadout might sound weird at first, but after you start using it, the flow of it's amazing, and we'll dive deeper into that in a minute, but we have to talk about how to cheese the big guy first. So, you want to put on any kind of explosive resistant armor. I prefer medium B24 Enforcer with the 129, or heavy explosive resistant because all of his attacks get reduced by it. The spew can basically be ignored with it, so you can just keep blasting through it, but his jumping, like, dive attacks into the ground need a little bit of tech. All you need to do is start sprint strafing to either side when you see the ground animation of him coming at you. Then you just stim dive, and 50% of the time, 100% of the time, he'll knock you back and you'll live. The other time, he'll send you into the stratosphere and you'll be able to see other people's games. He also likes to dive into the ground more when you're standing on a POI that he can't breach through, so that creates those really long durations of him just running around like crazy, and then you never actually get to fight him. So we found that standing in the open sands usually means that he'll flail around like an inflatable tube man, and then you can easily blast him like that. Also, try to avoid any kind of water when you're fighting this thing, or you might get a little angry. I'm okay, I guess. Drowning? No way. As for the peen slap attack, just stim dive and you'll live the vast majority of the time. And if you're in your mech when this happens, just be careful not to shoot when he does it or you'll break your own arms off. Most of the time this attack won't break your mech as long as it's the first time that it's hit. And over anything else, my biggest tip is just take your time and be patient. The more you shoot the wrong places, the longer this takes, so locking in for a few minutes ends up saving you a ton of time over the course of the mission. Now in the background, you're also seeing rocket sentries pop off the entire time because there are screen for keeping enemies and all the trash mobs off of us. They can usually engage things far enough away that they handle everything before it can even burrow, but sometimes they do get overran by that Rupture strain, so just try to pay attention to them when they're popping off and rip those enemies out of the ground so it can take care of them. This is an extremely valuable piece of your kit that will prevent the game from snowballing out of control when you manage it properly, and it absolutely cooks bile dragons, and with our setup, we're hard countering them too.
Spear level threat on the field!
Fire, fire, fire! Yeah.
So the other really nice thing about locking the spear in is that dragon roaches get fried by it. And this is not an enemy I am worried about ammo economy on at all, because it will instantaneously kill you if you're not wearing fire resistant armor. So even if you pop 3 shots off to take it down while it's flying, it's super worth it. Sometimes we did have missiles like on bad angles end up missing, and you can one-shot its head, but it can be a hard shot to hit with the way that it's like flapping around, so just slam fire this thing off the screen as soon as you can. The bile dragon's attack patterns are to drive by and do like a really quick breath attack. You need to pre-stim this and be strafing in the direction you want to dive into, just like how to avoid the Hivelord, and then just get out of the way of that. If it hits your legs, it won't kill you. If it hits your main body, there's a high chance it just instantly kills you. After that, it's going to fly straight up and do a massive breath attack that goes like from left to right or whatever, and this breath attack is fire-based damage. So if you see this modifier on the planet, you want to wear fire-resistant armor if you're hard countering it, and you can just see me face tanking it without any care in heavy fire resistance armor. But because we also yearn for the mines, we're going to break down how to counter the cave systems as well, and it's all still the same build. So as you progress the missions, you're going to burn your first mech on the Hivelord, so I recommend you start doing those outside objectives first, and then you call your second mechs to push into the caves, more so the mega base. This trivializes them and lets you smash through it super easily without thinking, but sometimes the game isn't going to play out like that, and you won't have access to your mechnology, so I prefer to call in an autocannon or a supply backpack to push in the cave, and if you do it with the autocannon, you will need an ultimatum to take down the Bile Titan hole, but if you do it with the supply backpack method, just keep your spear on your back and use it as a disposable for that hole. The spear also has no problem shooting enemies in the caves. Their roof is high enough so you can easily just lock in on any kind of Bile Titan or whatever you need to remove with it, and I do think the flow of a supply backpack with the spear as a disposable was actually pretty good, and you can also just reload this thing at any checkpoints by calling a new one in there. As for pushing through the caves, we really won't have any issues as long as you bring something like the crossbow or the purifier. You won't be running out of resources, and you can easily take advantage of the different choke points to AoE everything down. 4 gas grenades and a crossbow can easily take down an entire bug breach in the caves. Then as you hit more checkpoints, you can just grab all your resources, or if you feel like you need to, you can just fall back, grab some, and then head back in. As you progress through the caves, make sure you look back regularly, that way you don't get lost. It's the same theory as when you're walking out in the forest in real life, and that way you don't panic when you need to go back the way that you came, because it's recognizable. This also helps you identify what a good choke to kite through enemies would be, and then that way you can AoE them down faster. It just helps you keep control of the game, and all these different options I keep giving you guys are just so that you're not pigeonholed into one playstyle. You can get more ideas, and that way the game stays fresh. And if you are duoing, for instance, you could bring a supply backpack and your friend could bring a support weapon, and then you could just trade when their cooldowns are off, and then you have a more well-balanced loadout to push into the caves with. But to dive a little bit deeper into our loadout so the breakdown's a little bit more consistent and in one place, we already covered how most of the stratagems work together and why you'd want to bring this setup, but the general theory is that taking one slot of your loadout to counter an enemy is always going to be worth it, and in this case, in every single cave mission, you're going to have Hivelords or Bile Dragons or both. So you need the spear and the mech to have a smooth experience dealing with everything. Then you can kind of just take whatever you want in the last 2 slots. But I do think that Rocket Sentry gets insane value as a screening tool, so you should take advantage of that, because when you do have 4 of them out, they have an awesome force multiplier with each other to just handle everything by themselves, and they almost don't need any babysitting, letting you focus on the big targets. And then in that last slot, I do feel like the autocannon provides that god tier backup against the Hivelords, just in case your mech gets cooked up.
Oh, he's dead.
Yo, that fries him, bro.
And then, of course, you could flex that over to the supply backpack and just use the spear as a disposable like we talked about. I am going to be trying to promote more team play and team loading stuff in the future. Like, if you do see somebody with a bonus backpack on the ground and you can just team load them, the damage power spike you get is amazing, and it feels really good. Even though team loading can be very frustrating the vast majority of the time. Like, you have to be on, like, a level round to be able to team load properly. If somebody's a little above or below, it can completely break your arms, and then you can't team load anymore. Small pebbles can interrupt the team load, so like you have to be very mindful of where you're team loading at, but if you do tee off on it, is really good. I've been cry diving for them to fix this for ages, so hopefully eventually they do. But if you do want to be part of something that is pushing more of that style, then make sure you join my community Discord. As for your main weapons, if the Burrow Strain is active and you don't have the autocannon, I really do think you need an explosive weapon for them. The crossbow, purifier, or scorcher all make quick work of them because the explosions knock them out of the ground, including the chargers, so you can easily cook them up like that. I personally prefer the crossbow because it also clears bug holes, and in just a couple shots you can easily cook up any of their patrols, and the way that it handles chokes in the caves is completely unmatched for AoE and ammo economy. For our sidearm, I was rocking the ultimatum as a panic removal tool for Bile Titans and Chargers, but you can also just swap this to pretty much anything else you feel like you need. The Bushwhacker works very well here, and so does the Verdict for dealing with all the things that press you and get a little bit too close if you're not comfortable with, like, shooting explosives at them. And as for grenades, I do think gas is just going to be a no-brainer, and it gets the most value out of pretty much everything in the game for breaches. And in the caves, it gives you so much free time to do everything that you need to, that I think that you should pretty much always lock it in this update. As for boosters, you seriously need to lock in muscle enhancement because it helps with the Hivelord's slowing effect. Getting that extra movement speed to help deal with them and countering that mechanic almost altogether makes the fight progress way smoother, so I think you actually need this. And then after that, the other 3 big boosters you need to lock in are just stamina, vitality, and Hellpot space optimization. After all that, you should be all set to go on your big cave diving adventure to farm more E711 than anyone ever could have dreamed.
Bro, yeah, you're in the crazy zone. You're in the crazy zone.